The contents of this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. If you have a specific health concern or condition, please consult a qualified healthcare professional for more details. Check out herguru.uk/disclaimers.
Welcome. You're listening to Work, Stress, Anxiety by ABGW. I am Cheryl, and today I wanted to talk about why I created the emotional survival system. Not as a grand, dramatic origin story, because it ain't, okay? But because I'm going to be talking about the emotional survival system more often across the podcast, and I wanted there to be one clear episode that anyone can come back to and think, right, that's what she meant by that. So this episode is for the woman who is already expected to cope, the one reliable person, the one who is capable, organised, intelligent, responsible, useful professional, and therefore apparently immune from stress. Lovely little myth that is. Because being capable doesn't mean that you're not overloaded. Being relied on doesn't mean that you're not tired. Being strong doesn't mean that you should have to recover alone in hiding places. And being a woman certainly doesn't mean that you have suddenly stopped having a nervous system. The emotional survival system came from a very simple truth when I was working with someone. It was when I noticed that there are moments in life when talking about stress doesn't make you feel less stressed. Sometimes talking about it makes you feel worse. Sometimes it makes you feel more guilty, more exposed, more aware that you feel as if you're struggling, and more anxious because now you're stressed about being stressed, which is not nice at all. So I wanted to explain why I built this system, why it is made of separate focus kits, and why I wish I had something like this at many different points across my own working life. Not because I'm special, hell no, but because I have been working for nearly 45 years across different industries, roles, responsibilities, pressures, personalities, and all the glorious human nonsense that arrives when people gather under fluorescent lighting and call it work. And somewhere inside all of that, I kept seeing the same thing. Women coping, women carrying, women blaming themselves for struggling, women needing real tools, not just more advice. So that's what I'm talking about. I'll be honest with you. I built the emotional survival system in a selfish way. Is that a confession or what? Not selfish as in I wanted to build a tiny wellness empire and sit on a throne. No. If you know anything about me, you know that's far from possible with me. But selfish as in I kept thinking back, to when I started work at 16 and all the times in my own life where I would have needed it. All the pivotal moments when I was so stressed that talking about being stressed did not help. A lot of the time I didn't actually have anyone I could really talk to, but where I needed something more immediate, something that didn't ask me to explain everything, something that didn't require me to be articulate or tidy or insightful or somehow emotionally elegant. Because when you're flooded with stress, you know yourself, when you're exhausted, when your body is bracing and your mind is doing laps around the same fear, you do not need another deep conversation. Or maybe you do, but that's not my experience. Sometimes you need something that just helps you come down enough to function, down enough to breathe properly again, enough to stop blaming yourself, enough to choose one next sensible step. I wish I had the emotional survival system when I was anxious. I wish I had it when I was stressed and still expected to keep working. I wish I had it when I remember I had terrible back pain and I didn't understand that the pain I was experiencing was reducing my productivity. Not because I was being lazy, but because my body was already using so much energy trying to get me through the day. That is such an important point. Pain doesn't just hurt. If you've noticed, pain takes bandwidth. Stress takes bandwidth. Anxiety takes bandwidth. Emotional overload, they all take bandwidth. And then we wonder why we can't think clearly, decide clearly, respond calmly. It's not because we're weak. It's because your system is already running too many emergency programs in the background. And I wish I had it when my ego got the better of me. Yes, because I'm not pretending stress only happens when we're falling apart. Sometimes we're doing well, really well, and we still need grounding. Sometimes confidence tips into overdrive. Sometimes we need gratitude, not a smug little be grateful sticker, but as a way to stay connected to what matters before life turns into, I don't know, emotional achievement karaoke. I wish I had one of those kits at different points in my own working life as a woman, as a working with a woman, as a mum, as a professional, as a leader, as a manager, as a person who, like most people, has to carry on while life was doing the absolute most in the background to make life difficult. And again, I'm not saying that I am special. I'm saying I've observed from nearly 45 years of working, I have watched what happens to people under stress. I've watched what happens when capable ones are expected to keep absorbing. I've watched what happens when a woman's distress gets hidden behind competency. I have watched how often support arrives too late, too vague, and it's too unrealistic. So I built something I wish had existed. Something practical, something focused, something that could, I don't know, meet a woman in the actual moment she is in. The real moment, not the Instagram version. The car, the toilet, the edge of the bed at 2 a.m., the desk after an email, the meeting room where she needs her voice to work. This is where the emotional survival system belongs. And this is where it becomes bigger than me, because I see so many women who are the ones relied on, the dependable ones, the capable ones, the ones who get handed more because they've proven they can cope, which sounds flattering until you realize that you're so capable, it just ends up meaning we keep giving you more until something breaks. And then when something does break, those women often turn the blame inwards. They think, I should be fine. I should be stronger. I should be able to handle this. Other people have had worse. Come on, pull yourself together, because the more capable you are, the more shame you can feel when you need support. And that is completely backwards. Support shouldn't be reserved for collapse. Support should not require some dramatic breakdown, a formal diagnosis, or a crisis point. Support should be allowed earlier, smaller, quieter, more practical, in a more practical way. This is why I did not want to create one vague stress product, because I know work stress is not one thing. Overwhelm is not one thing. Emotional survival is not one neat flavor. Sometimes you need calm. Sometimes you need sleep. Sometimes you need to release emotions because you've swallowed it up all day, all week, all month, and now your chest feels like as if you've got a kettlebell on it. Sometimes you need energy and wakefulness because life has just paused, just because life doesn't just pause because you're depleted. Sometimes you need pain relief because your body is carrying more than anyone can see. Sometimes you need the emotional relaxation because tension has just become your default setting. I've seen it myself. Sometimes you need help with dealing with regret because your mind is replaying one sentence from one conversation from years ago, like as if it's some sort of courtroom exhibit. Sometimes you just need support around giving and receiving care because being looked after can feel weirdly difficult when you're used to being useful. Sometimes you just need anxiety support. Sometimes you just need stress support. Sometimes you need, I don't know, gratitude. Not because gratitude is the problem, but because gratitude helps you widen the lens that your survival stressy mode has narrowed everything down. And that is why it had to be a system. One product is it would have been too blunt. A system gives focus. A system lets each kit say, right, this is the thing we are supporting today. Not everything, just this. Because when you're overwhelmed, too many options can become another problem. So the emotional survival system is designed to be focused enough to be useful, but broad enough to make the real spectrum, of what women are carrying. And no, it's not to say that the other kits aren't relevant. Stress can affect sleep, absolutely. Anxiety can affect how you deal with pain. Pain can affect your mood. Regret can affect sleep. A lack of care can affect everything. It's all connected. But when you're in the middle of it, you often need just one clear door to walk through. And that's the point. So where does it leave us now? It leaves us with a different way to think about emotional support, not as something you earn after you suffered enough, not as something you need if you are not coping, not as something dramatic, embarrassing, or indulgent, but as practical infrastructure. You know me, I like things to be practical because your nervous system is not some sort of spare equipment. It's not decorative. It's the very thing that you are trying to work through, parent through, lead through, care through, decide through. And when it's overloaded, everything gets harder. You can't always change the work situation in 5 minutes. You can't always, dare I say it, change your manager, or you can't always change the deadline. You can't always affect the pain. You can't always change the fact that people depend on you. You can't always change that the meeting starts in 10 minutes. But sometimes 5 minutes can change your state. And when your state changes or it shifts, the next step can change. And that matters, because emotional survival is often not about fixing the whole thing, the whole life in the glorious technicolor thing. It's about getting enough steadiness back to ask, what is actually happening? What do I need? What is one active next step? Do I need to pause, rest, ask for support? And for the record, the furious inner goblin should always be saved as a draft, not deleted immediately, drafted, honoured. Then review when your nervous system is not trying to start a small workplace revolution. And this is where the ABG method sits underneath the system: awareness, balance, growth, win-win well-being. Awareness says this is what is happening. Balance says your body and capacity matter. Growth says we build through small, repeatable shifts, not shame. Well-being says the aim is not just to survive forever. The aim is to steady your choice. And win-win matters because your well-being should not require your whole life to be burnt down before it's allowed to improve. So the emotional survival system is not there to make women tolerate the unacceptable. It's not a sedative for toxic workplaces. It's not there to help you smile peacefully while you're being overloaded or ignored, bullied, or any of that rubbish. No, it's there to help you calm enough to re-access yourself, your thinking, your judgment, your language, your next step. Sometimes that next step is rest. Sometimes it's a boundary. Sometimes it's a conversation. Sometimes it's writing down what happened. Sometimes it's seeking appropriate professional help. Sometimes it's speaking to the union rep. Sometimes it's recognizing that you need more than a 5-minute reset. And that's okay. A tool is not a replacement for appropriate support. It's there to support you. It's a bridge. It's a handrail. It's a pocket of steadiness when your system is shouting. That's why I created it. So, with that in mind, what I would like you to do is I'd like you, before you finish this podcast, I'd like you to just take a moment. And if you're feeling a little bit stressed, just take 5 long, slow, deep breaths. And I want you to write down, once you've done that, write down one thing that actually needs doing next. If it's anxiety, ask what else could be true. If it's sleep, reduce one input before bed tonight. If it's pain, soften your expectations and consider what support might help. If it's releasing your emotions, write the sentence that you're not ready to say out loud. If it's energy, choose one tiny restorative action, not some heroic thing, just one small thing. If it's gratitude, name one thing that's still holding you, even if today is messy. One door, one action, one simple shift. That is emotional survival in real life. It's not glamorous, it's not dramatic, but useful, and useful beats impressive every time. Now, there is always, I always like to remind you the important difference between relief and restoration. Relief is where the intensity comes down, and restoration is where the system starts to trust that steadiness is available again. Both matter. Sometimes you need relief first. You need the tears to pass. You need the jaws to unclench. You need your body to stop behaving as if it's some sort of the inbox has got teeth, you know. Restoration is repetition. It's using the tool often enough that your nervous system starts to learn, I can be stressed and still choose. I can feel overwhelmed and not abandon myself. You know, I need support without turning it into shame. And that's why the emotional survival system is built as a system, because one moment of relief is good, but repeated moments of steadiness becomes evidence. And guess what? Evidence is powerful. Your brain learns from evidence. Oh, yes, it does. Your body learns from repetition, and your life changes through small steps. You can actually repeat. So the emotional survival system exists because capable women need support too. Real support, focused support. You know, tools that understand that sometimes you are stressed, sometimes you're anxious, sometimes you're in pain, sometimes you just can't sleep, sometimes you're in denial, sometimes you just need some energy. And it's a way of saying, stay connected to what still matters. You're not weak, you're not failing, you're not broken. You're not broken, ladies, because capable may be part of your story, but it should not become the reason you're left alone with everything. The emotional survival system is my way of saying, you know what, here is a focused door. Here is a small step. Here is a way back to yourself. You know, if anything in this episode, even the smallest thing has helped you, please follow the podcast. So that way, any future episodes, you know, when I explore individual emotional survival system kits, you'll get to know what they are, why they exist, and why 5 minutes of steadiness is never nothing. Thank you for listening to Work Stress Anxiety by ABGW. I'm Cheryl, and if today you are the one everyone relies on, please hear this. You are allowed to support yourself before you collapse. You're allowed to use small tools. You're allowed to need steadiness, and you are allowed to stop turning stress into a personal failure, because every step you take, no matter how small, is a step towards a brighter, more balanced future. Trust in your journey, and remember, progress is progress, no matter the pace. And I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.